Fox 19 now begins with breaking news.
Breaking right now, we're following a massive emergency response on the Ohio River after a barge slams into a marina there. It happened at the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club around 6 this morning. Lauren Miner is live on the scene following this. How much damage are we talking about?
Well, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage, and it's really a staple in this Ludlow community. This is where people spend their weekends, their summer nights, and the good news in all of this is that there were no injuries because a lot of people during the season, they will stay on these boats. So that's the first thing officials did when they got here. They just made sure everyone was accounted for, make sure no one was on those boats, because along with the restaurant itself, several boats were hit, some even sinking, and we're still not sure on the number of boats that were hit or that have sunk out here on the Ohio River, but they are just working on cleaning up that debris. Something I want to show you real quick is this is where the restaurant used to sit. This is the parking lot. You used to walk down a ramp to get to it. Now it is actually pushed up onto the bank, and you can see it sitting right over here, just devastating. Part of it actually sinking down into the water. A lot of the debris in the Ohio River. The patio actually traveled a little bit farther down, just around the bend here, and it's actually attached to the barge as well as several boats, and that barge currently right now just sitting in the middle of the Ohio River. Still not sure how this happened. I know there's a lot of questions surrounding that. Joining me right now is Kelly Gannon. She is actually a waitress here at the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club. You can come on in, Kelly. Talk to me. When you heard the news this morning, what was your reaction? I can't even imagine.
It's emotional, devastating. I can't believe it's gone. A lot of people work here. A lot of people stay down here during the summertime, like you said. It's family oriented. A lot of families in Ludlow love coming down here. I've lived here in Ludlow all my life. There's a lot of memories. It's kind of emotional because it's gone. I don't know what they're going to do. It's just devastating.
Fox 19 now begins with breaking news.
There was somebody down actually on that one of those boats down there.
I do know there will be footage. I think from the tugboat, there's actually going to be footage at some point. From what I understand, I haven't seen it yet. As far as actual eyewitnesses, I don't personally know of any. If there are, it could be coordinating with one of the other organizations.
Chief, we know that this was a close call. One of the other folks that work here was saying that in about 45 minutes past when the barge incident happened, that there would have been a whole crew right on.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, do we know that to be true?
Oh, yeah. It was the best case scenario for us here. If this was on a Thursday night, Friday night, a Saturday night, it would have been a major problem. The fact that it happened at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, sorry, it was best case scenario as far as no damage to people, no injury to life and things like that.
That crew was set to be on that barge the crew was set to be there in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, generally they show up early in the morning to get the day started, and those guys show up pretty early. And then, the other thing is I hear there's people that generally sleep on their boats at this time of year, but have already went off to Florida and things like that, so they weren't on their boats, which normally would have been there sleeping.
Can you tell us what was on the barge and where the barge should have been and how far off course it went?
I cannot tell you that. I can tell you that the main product that was on that barge was mostly gravel, sand, things like that, but I think there was some other mixed things on there. I can't tell you exactly. Just being here for the years I've been here and watching the barge, it was pretty far off. I mean, to be this far over to hit these boats is pretty far off course.
And can you tell us where it started and where it was heading?
I do not know those things, no. I don't know where it's headed to.
I know that this is a very close community. There's been a lot of people who've reached out just asking, is the owner okay? How's he doing? Have you been able to talk to him at all?
Yeah, Steve Gott is the owner of the property. Obviously, I think he's pretty stressed right now about his business. It does look like it's going to be a total loss. I'll be amazed if it isn't a total loss.
If you're just joining us once again, we can tell you that the officials there on the scene tell us the river has been shut down. Coast Guard, Fish and Wildlife are taking over this investigation after a barge slammed into a marina right there at the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club. We know Lauren Miner is live on the scene. She's been talking with officials there, talking with folks who work there as well. What do you know right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible, especially for those workers, the family that owns this restaurant, and just a lot of memories I know that people are reliving as they watch this restaurant start to sink. As you just heard from the Ludlow police chief, that they're worried about all that debris that's coming off of that restaurant, the refrigerators, the bar, the kitchen, now underwater. So there's a lot going on out here this morning. I'm going to step out of the way because I kind of want to give you an idea. So if you're familiar with the Yacht Club, you can see the parking lot here. And then if you go down the way, the ramp that usually will bring you onto the restaurant is no longer there, and that restaurant has floated down the river, has been pushed up onto the bank, and just a lot of cleanup still yet to do out here. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage, and as you just heard, that this is a total loss. So the owner just trying to figure out what he's going to do at this point. A lot of insurance agencies obviously involved here, but the good news is, I know it's devastating, but there was no one hurt, because he said if this would have been during the summer, if this would have been on a Friday night or Thursday night or sometime during the weekend, and there were people actually sleeping on those boats, we could be telling a completely different story. So just definitely good news there. And a lot of people I know wanting to get to their boats, and unfortunately that's not going to happen anytime soon. 6 of those boats still attached to the barge that sits a half a mile up the river, and part of the patio, I'm told, is also stuck to that barge as well. So they are working on cleaning up the debris. The Ohio River, this portion is shut down, and it's going to be a massive cleanup out here for a lot of these crews. And I know a lot of people are asking, how does this happen? How does the barge drift this far close to the bank and hit a restaurant? And I think that's what they're trying to figure out. The Coast Guard is actually going to be investigating that. We haven't heard any update on that investigation, but I know a lot of people are wanting those answers. So we're going to continue to stay out here for you this morning. We're going to continue to talk to those witnesses. And something I did want to mention as well is that a crew that works here at the restaurant was scheduled to be here about 45 minutes before or after this happened. So definitely glad that they weren't here, that they weren't at the restaurant at the time. So as devastating as this is, there is still something to be thankful for, and that's the no injuries that didn't happen down here at the Yacht Club this morning. For now, though, guys, we'll go ahead and send it back to you all in the studio.
Hey, Lauren, while we have you there, we know that, the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club, it's a staple. It's been around for a long time. We saw the difference just a couple of hours can make after all of this happened. What do you see now in terms of damage? We know it's a total loss, but so much of it is underwater.
Absolutely it is. And because that restaurant, like I said, used to sit here right behind me, and then it drifted, pushed onto the bank. And as we were standing there, as we were going live, I started to see part of that restaurant sink down further into the Ohio River. So we're talking that seating area, the kitchen, the bar area, all of that slowly sinking down into the Ohio River, and it is now underneath the river. So they have a lot of debris that they still have to clean up, and it's definitely going to be a process. They're going to be out here for several hours this morning.
Okay, Lauren, thank you so much. We're going to keep an eye on this situation very closely. You heard Lauren just mention 45-minute window before employees were going to be there that this happened. Luckily, no one got hurt. That's the good news here. But the Coast Guard, Fish and Wildlife are investigating. This will be a big investigation. We'll keep an eye on this very closely. We'll have more when we come back.
Fox 19 now begins with breaking news.
And that breaking news is right now on the Ohio River. We know that a barge slammed into the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club. Lauren Miner is live on the scene. She's been there throughout the morning here. You talk with officials there on the scene. What do you know now?
Well, I know they're going to be out here for several hours, and they're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage out here. And you can see that large response along and on the Ohio River. Now, as you said, a barge was traveling upriver earlier this morning around 6 o'clock when it struck the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club. It hit the restaurant, it hit the dock, and it actually took part of the patio and several boats with it. It is currently about a half a mile upriver. It's still sitting there, those boats and part of that patio still attached to it. Now, to give you guys an idea of where this restaurant once sat, we're standing near the parking lot where a ramp used to lead down to the restaurant portion. That restaurant floated not too far, about I don't know, like a half a mile, I would say, not even, up the river. And now part of it is actually sunken down into the Ohio River. That restaurant, the kitchen, the bar area, all underwater right now. And right now, crews are just working on trying to prevent that debris from traveling downriver. We've been seeing them try to get a lot of the portions of the patio, portions of the restaurant. And they said this is going to be a major cleanup. They are going to be out here for several hours, and they do have portions, or this portion, I should say, of the Ohio River closed.
We're staying on top of that massive emergency response there on the Ohio River after a barge slammed into the marina. The kitchen, part of the restaurant, is already sunk. Still more questions than answers this morning. We'll take a live look and get a live update right after this. Stay close. We're staying on top of this breaking situation that is out. It's a massive emergency response on the Ohio River. This is after a barge slammed into a marina there at the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club. Right now, the Coast Guard and the Fish and Wildlife are taking over the investigation. This is going on almost 4 hours now this morning and happening just after 6:15, that barge slamming into the marina. We're told there are still several boats still stuck to the barge out on the river right now. The good news in all of this, there are no injuries. The bad news, a business, a restaurant that's been a mainstay there in the Ludlow community is now underwater. Folks wondering if they'll have a job. They probably won't. And then trying to figure out all the damage estimates, because there's going to be a lot of it as this investigation continues.
Fox 19 now begins with breaking news.
Let's get right to that breaking news right now. Lauren Miner has been following this very closely. A barge crashes into a marina right there on the Ohio River. Lauren, what do you have?
Well, still a very large presence out here. You can see officials behind me on and along the Ohio River. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. We're standing near the parking lot where the yacht club used to be. It has now been pushed up onto the bank of the river. The kitchen, bar, and restaurant now partially underwater. Officials calling it a total loss. We actually saw it start to sink even further down into the water as we were standing here. The dock where these boats sit is now underwater as well. You can kind of see that bluish green roof right next to those boats, and a lot of those boats underwater as well. Now, a barge traveling upriver struck the restaurant around 6:15 this morning. I believe we have a live picture of that barge from photographer Dale Lutz. If we can go ahead and get to that. The barge actually carried part of the patio as well as several boats with it. A portion of the river is shut down as they work to get those things cleaned up. They don't want any of that debris to travel down the river, and they also need to work on getting the portion of that patio as well as those boats off the barge. Now, the Coast Guard along with Fish and Wildlife are investigating. Everyone wondering why the barge was so close to the bank, and we're still waiting for answers on that. The yacht club is where a lot of people spend their summer and weekends. Luckily, no one was hurt in this, and that is the good news. No one was spending the night on their boats, which is the case a lot of the times, especially during the summer months and on the weekends. Many people sharing their memories down here with us as well this morning. Officials are going to be spending hours out here cleaning things up, and this portion, like I said, of the river will remain closed. We're kind of feeling that wind pick up this morning as well, so that could cause some problems for crews out here, and we're going to continue to follow this throughout the day for you on Fox 19 as well as fox19now.com, so make sure you stick with us. For now, though, we will go ahead and send it back to you all in the studio.
Hey, Lauren, while we have you, we just saw those close-up video, that live picture of the roof. It looked like it was the kitchen of that property there. It's crazy to see. You talked to folks who work there, and you got to hear what they had to say. We know the owner is stressed. You heard that from the chief. What else have you been hearing from folks?
Well, we spoke with the server earlier this morning, and, she said she used to come here with her mother all the time. She has a lot of memories at the yacht club, and that's the case for a lot of these people in the community. People spend their summer nights down here, and even though they were getting ready to be off for the season, it's still putting a lot of those employees out of work, and they're just trying to figure out, is this going to be back up and running again? But as officials say, this restaurant, a total loss. We're starting to just see it sink further down into the Ohio River. Jeez. And at this point, I know So a lot of questions still remain, and we're going to continue following this as well.
Take a look at that, folks. Come over to your screen and see this here. A good vantage point of what we're dealing with here after a barge crashed right there into the Ludlow-Bromley Yacht Club.